Namaskar friends, welcome to this online refresher course that is a concerns in educational research and assessment under ARPIT 2019. I am Arvind Kumar Jha from Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar University, Lucknow, and extending my greetings to you all on behalf of National Resource Center for Education, that is NRC for Education, Central University of South Bihar, Gaya. I'm here to discuss with you on a very important and relevant topic, that is focus group discussion. We'll discuss this topic in two parts. In the first part, we shall talk about focus group discussion, why focus group discussion, role of focus group discussion, guidelines for focus group discussion, how to conduct a focus group discussion, setting ground rules and leading groups, things needed for focus group discussion. The next part of this discussion will focus upon questions to organize some issues involved with focus group discussion. How do you use focus group? Specific points to guide development of focus group discussion, and opening script for facilitator of vocabularies of gender focus group as an example. We'll also talk about the promise of confidentiality, focus group discussion in education, potential and limitations of focus group discussion, what are the advantages and disadvantages of conducting focus group, the role of moderator, and we'll talk about ethical issues involved in a focus group discussion. Now, firstly, let us talk about what is a focus group discussion and its genesis. Then why focus group discussion? Rules or roles of focus group discussion, guidelines for focus group discussion, how to conduct a focus group discussion, setting ground rules and leading group. Then we'll be talking about things needed for focus group discussion. Let's introduce ourselves to the world of focus group research methodology. Friends, focus groups, which have been used generally for the several researches in the past, are now being frequently used as a data collection method for social sciences, health sciences, education, and many more. In the case of educational research, recent have seen a reversal of educational researchers' attitudes towards focus group, which are an important research method of discovering participants' feelings, values, attitudes, reactions, and experiences about a research topic or research problem. However, although it has been realized that focus groups offer extremely rich and high quality data to educational researchers, this data collection method has been underused when compared with other qualitative data collection methods such as in-depth interview and participant observation. There are many definitions of focus group in the literature. If we scan the literature, but features like organized discussion, collective activity, social events, and interactions identify the contribution that focus group make to social research. Powell and others have defined a focus group as a group of individuals selected and assembled by researchers to discuss and comment on from personal experiences the topic that is the subject of the research. Focus groups are a form of group interviewing, but it is important to distinguish between the two. Group interviewing involves interviewing a number of people at the same time, the emphasis being on questions and responses between the researcher and participants. Focus groups, however, rely on interaction within the group based on topics that are supplied by the researcher. Hence, the key characteristics which distinguishes focus group is the insight and data produced by the interaction between participants. Merton and Cantel influential article on the focused interview set the parameters for focus group development. This was in terms of ensuring that participants have a specific experience of or opinion about the topic under investigation, that an explicit interview guide is used, and first, the subjective experiences of participants are explored in relation to predetermined research questions. Friends, the focus group discussion, which is also referred to as a group interviewing, as said earlier, is essentially a qualitative research methodology. It is based on structured, semi-structured or unstructured interviews, not necessarily following structured or unstructured only. It offers qualitative researchers the opportunity to interview several respondents systematically and simultaneously. Simultaneity is the key here, friends. Focus group discussion is applauded and widely used in recent times, mainly because of its strength of convenience, number one, economic advantage, high face validity, and speedy results. Many authors also subscribe to the notion that focus group discussion is advantageous because of its purposeful use of social interactions in generating data. It is the use of social interaction which distinguishes it from other qualitative methodologies. The recent popularity being enjoyed by focus group discussion is not necessarily because it is the best conduit of eliciting qualitative data and the quality of the data, but because of its convenient and economic uses. These seem to have been the driving force for the recent popularity. Despite the popularity of focus group discussion, it is fraught with some fronts, including the less control it offers to researchers in the interview process. Further, it is susceptible to the dangers groupthink may pose on individual participants' responses, which can significantly impact on the outcome of the studies. In this, the efficacy of focus group discussion as a data collection methodology is put on the line by contrasting data from focus group discussion and one-on-one interview to ascertain the retrieval from respondents, and that we need to do. Now, let me talk about the focus group. What is this? How this has been conceptualized, and how actually this is used in collecting data as a research methodological tool. Friends, focus group or group interviews are employed in multiple ways. There is no one way. Focus group discussion is frequently used as a qualitative approach to gain an in-depth understanding of social issues. The method, particularly as a research method, this method aims to obtain data from a purposely selected group of individuals rather than from a statistically representative sample of a broader population. They are used for mainly market research to test and develop products, but the same can be used for various reasons in the field of other social sciences, health sciences, education, etc., etc. Evaluation and policy researchers are often use them to ascertain responses to institutional interventions. Focus groups are groups interview that are structured to foster talk among the participants about particular issues. People are brought together and encouraged to talk about the subject of interest. They are used to stimulate talk from multiple perspectives from the group participants so that the researcher can learn what the ranges of views are. I underline what the range of views are. They are also used to promote talk on a topic that informants might not be able to talk so thoughtfully about it in individual interview. Group participants can stimulate each other to articulate their views or even to realize what their own views are. A major problem with focus groups can be that individuals may not share important experience they have had because they are too embarrassed to share them in the group. But I'll discuss it in detail later on. Focus groups are interactive discussions groups. They are preferred over personal interviews. Why? Because of their interactive effect. Statement of one participant can generate comments by others. Typically, several groups are run and then the results are interpreted judgmentally by observers and the moderator. Participants are not forced to give a fixed response. This lack of structure makes the data collection more complex. Why? Since further interpretation from the researcher is needed to translate it into qualitative and quantitative data, both. Synonyms for focus groups, there are literature which use various synonyms for the focus group discussions, and some of them include group discussion, small group discussion, focus group discussions, and so on and so forth. We should note that a focus group is not a debate. It's not a kind of group therapy. It is not a conflict resolution session. It's not a problem solving session. It is basically an opportunity to collaborate, a promotional opportunity. The questions used relate to the specific issues to be addressed by the researcher. Usually they are linked to an examination of intended results, implementation processes, indicators, and or the context of the project or the program or the issues. Now I'll be talking about, friends, why focus group discussion. Friends, focus group discussions generate more in-depth information than one-on-one interviews or surveys. Why? Because they're based around discussions and use our innate desires to communicate about issues, perspectives, and opinions. They can be used to solicit views, insights, and recommendations of the program, of the customers, of the stakeholders, the technical experts, or any other groups on a particular issue, problem, or topic. Focus groups are especially appropriate when stakeholders' opinion, attitude, preferences, or perspectives are needed for program planning. Specific activities or projects are in a conflict, post-conflict environment, and recommendations and suggestions are needed from participants, partners, experts, or other stakeholders. For example, why it is important that there should be 2 mid-session examination or 1 mid-session examination, and if we are going to distribute the percentage of weightage, so what should be the percentage of weightage? If it is for the students, why we should not seek opinion from the students themselves instead of forcing on them that this is what we think and you have to follow that. There could be several such examples, friends, and we can talk and talk. Similarly, whether the curriculum or the syllabus of a particular curriculum should be fixed, or there should be some possibility of flexibility, at least even 10 to 20%. See, let me underline here that using qualitative research methodologies, particularly in the field of education and for pedagogical research, I have no hesitation to say that it can provide informative insights into student experiences of teaching and learning environment in school education, in primary education, in secondary education, in tertiary education, that is higher education. Let me tell you two things very importantly, that there are a number of papers that have been published and they underline that pedagogic study using focus groups by outlining strategies for effective focus group organization, highlighting good practices from the social sciences and pedagogic literature, and providing a critique of a recent geographical studies or psychological studies in which focus groups were used as the sole research method. Furthermore, if you're interested, you can go for the hundreds of illustrations how a pedagogic research study can be used to enhance teaching and learning and to inform curriculum planning and courses management. For example, what should be the content of alternative education? Why any curriculum planners can form certain contents, organize it on the basis of certain logic. I'm not saying they are wrong. That may be the valid point to organize the content, but while presenting the content, giving it to the students to further study, why not they should be involved through focus group discussion, that what we should retain, what we shouldn't retain. Now, I'll be talking about what is the main purpose of focus group research. The main purpose of focus group research is to draw upon respondents' attitudes, as said earlier, feelings, beliefs, experiences, and reactions in a way in which would not be feasible using other methods. For example, observation, one-to-one interview, or questionnaire surveys. These attitudes, feelings, and beliefs may be partially independent of a group or its social setting, but are more likely to be revealed via the social gathering and the interaction which being in a focus group entails. Compared to individual interviews, which aim to obtain individual attitudes, individual beliefs, individual feelings, focus group elicit a multiplicity of views, and that's their strength, and emotional processes within a group context. And emotion is the key for any opinion, for any belief, for any attitudinal change, etc., etc. The individual interviewer is easier for the researcher to control than a focus group in which participants may take the initiative. Compared to observations, a focus group enables the researcher to gain a larger amount of information in a shorter period of time, and that's their strength. Observational methods tend to depend on waiting for things to happen, whereas the researcher follows an interview guide in a focus group. In the sense, focus groups are not natural but organized events. Focus groups are particularly useful when there are power differences between the participants and decision makers or professionals, when the everyday use of language and culture of particular groups is of interest, and when one wants to explore the degree of consensus on a given topic. I'm not saying that any structured thing is not of good thing, but why not we researchers, we teachers, we curriculum planners should involve more and more students in the process of syllabus development or curriculum construction, so that they should feel that this curriculum is their own. And they will involve themselves in that process. When they will actually involve in the process of curriculum transaction and its implementation, they will not feel alienated. They will have the sense in their mind that these things have been developed by their own. Similar thing can happen in the democracy or any law that we are going to construct for ourselves. Now friends, let's move on and let's talk about the role of focus group discussion. And so when I'm talking about role of focus group discussion, I'll basically talk about how it can be used. Focus groups can be used at the preliminary or exploratory stages of a study, during a study, perhaps to evaluate or develop a particular program of activities, or after a program has been completed, to assess its impact or to generate further avenues of research. They can be used either as a method in their own right or as a complement to other methods, especially for triangulation and validity checking. Focus group can help to explore or generate hypotheses and develop questions or concepts for questionnaires and interview guides. They are, however, limited in terms of their ability to generalize findings to a whole population, mainly because of the small number of people participating and the likelihood that the participants will not be representative sample. Examples of research in which focus group have been employed includes developing HIV education in some African countries, for example Zimbabwe, understanding how media manages or media messages are processed, exploring people's fear of, for example, woodlands, and distance interviewing of family doctors, etc., etc. Focus group can help to explore or generate, as I said, hypotheses and develop questions or concepts for questionnaires and interview guide. And that's my open suggestion, that every researcher must see and must do before coming out a final questionnaire. Why only on the basis of some literature, existing literature, or on the basis of opinion of some experts, or on the basis of their own feeling and understanding, they should say, oh, this is the questionnaire that I have developed. Why not? Before you come out a questionnaire to be used to collect the data, right, you should involve the people from whom you are seeking or eliciting the responses in the form of data to that questionnaire. And that's why I would like to say that they can be used at the preliminary or exploratory stages of a study. They can be used during a study, perhaps to evaluate or develop a particular program of activities. And after a program has been completed, you can use this to assess its impact or to generate further avenues of research, as I have just said. Friends, the researcher or moderator has less control over the data produced than in either quantitative studies or one-to-one interviewing. By its nature, focus group discussion is open-ended and cannot be entirely predetermined. The role of the moderator is very significant here. If you are not a good moderator, you cannot collect good data out of focus group discussion use. Good levels of group leadership and interpersonal skill are required to moderate a group successfully. So if you are not good at interpersonal skills, don't think that they will come out and start speaking on their own. Now let me talk about some of the guidelines for focus group discussion. For example, what kind of a script you will use? So let me first talk about an example of a script, in the sense how to conduct a focus group discussion. A focus group discussion can uncover attitudes and assumptions people hold when choosing products or services, or challenges your own assumptions about issues or problems your own company may face, your own educational organization may face, or your own certain components of any curriculum may face, or even assessment strategies face. A focus group discussion also can build consensus among key personnel by providing a venue to voice questions and answers, facilitating the buy-in to an outcome by letting them act as a part of solution. Whether you hire a professional moderator or moderate the discussion yourself, following some basic steps can ensure a productive sessions for all participants, friends. So now I'm going to talk about how many ways you can do that. Here are 4 ways to get started with your focus group discussion. Number 1, the first way, plan before you proceed. What is happening? In qualitative research, it is said that without any plan, you enter the field and you collect the data. But if you are using focus group discussion, you will have to plan before you proceed. Establish a specific goal, that is, what is driving 75% of middle-aged women to purchase milk X above other brands, or why males buy a certain brand of shirt in comparison to other, or what is it that drives them to buy a particular brand shoes in comparison to other brand of shoes. Like in India, why, and the success story of Puma you can understand from the user's perspective. If there is a choice-based credit system in a particular curriculum and that provision is there, why and how students select choice-based credit system option A, not B, or option B, not C, etc., etc. So you can evaluate the product pricing, the promotions, the packaging, and competitive landscapes. It's not only about the products which you can see. It is also about the products educationally important. Like suppose if I hire the student, if I'm a school teacher, like why I should hire a teacher from a particular school A, not from the school B. However, B may be highly reputed than school A. Second, find the right audience, and that's very important, friends. Who is our target audience? For example, if you are doing some study on women, the middle-aged women between 45-65 years of age is a contrary Y who have previously purchased, suppose if they are using a particular brand of milk X. How can we get a small focus group of 4 to 8 or 10 to 15 participants? For example, online newsletters, telephone outreaches, or ask participants outside any institution or shop. They will help you to have this. And the third way is very important. Ask the essential questions. Friends, I have maintained a point that in any research, it's the question which is very important. And therefore, you need to ask the essential questions, not the superficial questions. And don't ask questions for the sake of asking questions. Carefully choose questions which can prompt more meaningful conversations. Choose engaging and open-ended questions over simple yes or no type questions or close-ended questions. For example, ask open-ended questions. Why do you choose brand X over the brand B? Or why do you choose school X over the school Y? Or why do you choose University X over University Y? Why do you choose a particular program within the course over other program? And you must use probing questions. When I'm saying probing questions, for example, when you think about that the brand X as a product, what was the first thing that comes into your mind? Or when and how do you decide a particular profession in which you will enter? What are the things that came first in your mind? And therefore, you need to use prompts and follow-up questions. For example, you mentioned that you like the packaging of a particular brand, you like the syllabus of a particular curriculum, you like the teachers over the curriculum, or your preference is the library space over other things, etc., etc. What do you associate with the appearance of the packaging? How do you choose that? Listen and document it well. Pay attention to highlights of the discussion, for example, and therefore listening out for motivation, biases, previous experiences, tone, and also observe non-verbal cues. It's not always that the words you are getting, it's not always that responses you are getting verbally, but the non-verbal responses, the cues, body gestures, etc., etc., etc. You need to note down all those things. Friends, you need to document it well. Documentation is key for any qualitative research and particularly focus group discussion. For example, use a mobile data gathering tool like you can use iAuditor to record the focus group discussion or any other. It's not that only this as a tool. Any mobile data gathering tool you can use or any tool you can use to record the data, because time and again you will have to re-see this, what is the responses of the people. Now, a focus group discussion can, as I said earlier, it can uncover attitudes and assumptions people hold when choosing products or services, choosing an institutions, choosing not only institutions but the place where the institution is located, or it can challenge your own assumptions about issues or problems your organization is facing, your company is facing, even your curriculum is facing, or even your syllabi is facing, or your teachers are facing, and consequently the effect of all these even students are facing. So friends, a focus group discussion also can build consensus among key personnel by providing a venue to voice questions and answers, facilitating the buy-in to an outcome by letting them act as a part of the solution. And therefore, it is a very important that if you come out with this, if you want to have a solution, discuss in the group, not in isolation, not individual. And discussing any phenomena in the group will definitely help you to generate, to document, and to come out with a different insights. Whether you hire a professional moderator or moderate the discussion yourself, you need to keep certain points in mind. So following some basic steps can ensure a productive session for all participants. So the first suggestion will be that develop a moderator guide, also referred to as a script. This term is misleading as it is really an outline of topics and questions to cover. Include a time stamp for each section to ensure adequate coverage of the topics. Try to hold coverage of the topics. Try to hold the entire session within 2 hours maximum, though most groups discussion last from 1 to 1.5 hours only. Second, hold the group over a long lunch or every evening to ensure participation. You can do that. Third, search out and invite 10 to 12 or 15 to 20 participants to ensure 10 to 15 will actually attend. Look for participants with some commonality. The common factor may be similarity in age or life stage, work in related industries or comparable educational level. Also look for articulate people who feel comfortable expressing their opinions. It helps if participants don't know each other very well. Fourth, conduct the discussion in a space with adequate ventilation and lighting. So a space ambience is very important. Providing participants with a comfortable setting and light refreshments if you can afford, particularly if held over the lunch. The fifth point, record the discussion with at least audio if not video recording. Depending on whether visual aids are used in the discussion or if it is particularly important to capture non-verbal cues from participants during the discussion. Now I'll be talking about setting ground rules because it's very important to have the understanding of ground rules if we are really going to use focus group discussion. So what are the ground rules? Ground rule number 1, call the group to order and welcome participants. Introduce yourself and explain the basic rules of a small group discussion. One person speaks at a time rather than talking over one another. The moderator will actively look for everyone to participate with no one person dominating the conversation. The session will be recorded to let the moderator focus on the flow of the group rather than trying to act as a stenographer or memorizing everything that is said. No one person's comments will be singled out or tied back to that person at the end of the project. Number 2, briefly cover the agenda. What does it mean? It means the purpose of the meeting, the general topic, and identify the specific questions to be answered or problems to be solved. Perhaps phrase the purpose like, by the end of the discussion, we would like to better understand how to, so on and so forth. And the third rule, ask for each person to briefly introduce themselves, perhaps focusing on their relationship to the discussion by way of the background, depending on the topic under study. Now let me talk about how to lead the group. And as far as the leading group is concerned, my first thing that I want you to underline is open with the general topic questions as a warm-up. Sometimes a what is question, or in the case of an employee group, perhaps a general feeling about the company overall, or the general feeling about the curriculum overall, or the general feeling about the syllabus overall, or the general feeling about the institution in which you are studying, or the general feeling that what you want to be in your life as a professional. Second, allow time for respondents to open up, answer and interact. Prompt the discussion by asking other participants to respond to an initial answer to a question. Third, follow up with the other questions on other topics. There are ways to keep the discussion flowing. Include repeating the question, repeating or rephrasing an answer, playing devil's advocate by taking an opposite view, asking others to respond to statements. And friends, as I said earlier also, look for non-verbal cues from participants who may not be speaking up verbally to draw them out further. And therefore, as a fourth leading rule, you must write comments down on a flip chart for people to read and refer to as the discussion moves forward. For example, what you can do? You can circulate some questions in advance. What will happen? Some of the participants in the group may be interested to respond on a question A, some may be on B, on C or D. Therefore, according to the interest, they will provide you the in-depth qualitative data to collect it. And finally, So therefore, I would like to suggest you write comments down on a flip chart for people to read and refer to as the discussion moves forward. Notepads and paper also may help participants from thoughts as the discussion continues. And then you need to wrap up. So how to wrap up? So I'm going to talk about wrapping up discussion. Thank respondents for participating and also them out. Ensure the recording device worked. Jot down any notes and observations such as the general tone of the group or outstanding themes that arose in the course of the discussion. Number 4, hold a quick debriefing discussion with any observers to gather thoughts or perceptions they made while monitoring the discussion. Incorporate these notes into the final report as they can provide a framework to outline or aspects to highlight in the account. Now I'll be talking about, friends, things needed. First, you need to have a list of participants' name and tags like notepads and the pencils, flip chart or paper markers, recording devices, for example, audio or video. You also need some refreshments. You also need watch or clock. You also need organizing focus group. Interview usually requires more planning than other types of interviewing. And therefore, now I'll be talking about how to organize focus group interviews. Usually requires more planning, as I said, than other types of interviewing, as getting people to group gatherings can be difficult, and setting up appropriate venues with adequate recording facilities requires a lot of time. So the recommended number of people per group is usually, people say 6 to 10, but I'll say at least 10 to 15 or 15 to 20. But some researchers have used up to 30 or as few as 5. It depends on the nature of the research problem. It depends the informants, people that you have. So number of groups vary. There is no hard and fast rule, either 5 or 10 or 15 or 20. Some studies using only one meeting with each of several focus groups. Others meeting the same groups several times. So friends, I would like to say that the focus group sessions usually last from 1 to 2 hours. Neutral locations can be helpful for avoiding either negative or positive associations with a particular site or building. Otherwise, the focus group meetings can be held in a variety of places. For example, people's homes, in rented facilities, or where the participants hold their regular meetings if they are pre-existing groups. It is not always easy to identify the most appropriate participants for a focus group. If a group is too heterogeneous, whether in terms of gender or class, or in terms of professional and non-professional, you can say lay perspectives. The differences between participants can make a considerable impact on their contributions. Alternatively, if a group is homogeneous with regard to specific characteristics, diverse opinions and experiences may not be revealed. Participants need to feel comfortable with each other. Meeting with others whom they think of as possessing similar characteristics or levels of understanding about a given topic will be more appealing than meeting with those who are perceived to be different. Once the types of participants have been decided, locating them is the next challenge. Recruitment of participants can be time-consuming, especially if the topic under considerable has no immediate benefits or attractions to participants. It is likely that people with a specific interest will have to be recruited by word of mouth, through the use of key informants, by advertising or by poster campaigns, or through existing social networks. Incentives, whether expenses, gift vouchers or presents, will usually need to be offered, particularly if you are doing for the commercial houses, the business houses. Similarly, if you're doing it for the educational purposes, you will say that this will be your product and this will be benefited not for you only, but it will be beneficial for the others who will join or who will come to study after you. So friends, in this part of the discussion, we discussed about number 1, focus group discussion. What is this? Number 2, why focus group discussion? Number 3, role of focus group discussion. Number 4, guidelines for focus group discussion. Number 5, how to conduct a focus group discussion. Number 6, setting ground rules and leading group. 7th, things needed for focus group discussion. That is all about this part, friends. I hope that you have enjoyed this session. Once again, we shall meet in the next part of the presentation, in which we shall discuss questions to organize some issues involved with focus group discussion. How do we use focus group? Specific points to guide developments of focus group discussions. Opening a script for facilitators of vocabularies of gender focus group as an example. Promise of confidentiality. Focus group discussion in education, and potential and limitations of focus group discussions, along with its advantage and disadvantages of conducting focus group discussion. And finally, we'll talk about the role of a moderator and ethical issues involved in focus group discussion. Thanks for watching this video. Namaskar.